Hi everyone, Lori here. So as you know, we're in self-isolation and looking for things to do, and there was so much talk about my crazy banana cake this morning. I'm going to show you all how to make it. Give you some valuable cooking tips, and then you can make it for me. So the first thing is turn on your oven. And the crazy thing about this recipe is that you bake it at 275 degrees, which is really low for a cake, but you bake it quite a long time. There's another crazy part, but that's at the end. So whenever you bake, turn your oven on first, prepare your pans. Yay, Pam. So because this banana cake recipe, Crazy Banana Cake by the Happy Hooligans, makes an enormous cake, it says use a 9 by 13 pan. No, it'll overflow. So when I make it, I either use this huge pan I have or divide it up. And so today I'm going to make 3 cakes maybe, one for Megan and Dustin, one for Kelly and Corey, and a little one for Doug and I. Okay, so there you go. The oven's going on. We got our pans ready. Okay, here we are in the second part. And of course, it's very important to follow instructions. Megan, Kelly, I always told you if you could read, you could cook, and it's true. Carol as well. So we got our oven heating up. The first part of the instructions is mashed bananas, 3 or enough to make 1.5 cups. I'm gonna assume you all know how to do that, but here you go. Put it in a bowl, mashed it up. And it says to add 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. Now, this was my favorite lemon juicer, and it works really well and it's cheap. But Doug bought the Rolls Royce of all lemon squeezers, which is wonderful, because you just put it in there and you never get, 2 teaspoons. I can guess, you guys should measure. That's about 2 teaspoons, and no seeds come out. It's awesome. Mix that together. That just gives the bananas a nice brightness that you'll notice in the cake. Okay, bananas ready. Next, we move on to the dry ingredients. Okay, so now we're gonna get our dry ingredients recipe. The important thing about making cake is that you mix the dry with the wet, with the dry, with the wet. So a very important thing about measuring flour I just learned recently. I need 3 cups of flour. I have 2 in here already. You don't just dip your thing in and pat it down. No, you'll get way too much flour. All good bakers spoon and level, which means you use a spoon to get it into your cup. Overflow it a little bit, and then just level it out. It doesn't pack it in, it makes it closer to the weight that you actually need. So in here I have 3 cups of flour. I need 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. Right here, make sure they're level. 1.5, because it's quite a big cake, it's using quite a lot of soda. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. There we go. There's our dry ingredients. And what I like to do is just take my measuring spoons and mix them all up. You can whisk them if you want, you can sift them if you want, but just mix them all up. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the next part, creaming the butter and sugar. Happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me, happy birthday dear Lori, happy birthday to me. Of course, that's twice you do that. I forgot in part 1 to make sure you wash your hands first, which I did, and put up your hair, which I also did. Cleanliness and all. Okay, now we're going to part 4, which is creaming the butter and sugar. When you measure sugar, it's not the same rule as flour. You can just dip your cup in there and throw it in here. So in here, I have 3/4 cup of soft butter, and 2 cups of sugar. So now I'm gonna start creaming it. This is sort of the most essential part of almost any baking. You'll notice cookies, cakes, anything, cream the butter and sugar. And in my book, Butter, that Kadu sent me, woman says that you should do it for like at least 5 minutes. I rarely do that, but I'll get started and get back to you when I'm all fluffy and creamy. Carol, this is the part you need brute force. Okay, so in part 5, we've got the butter nice and creamed. We're adding 3 eggs, and you add the eggs 1 at a time. I use this little paper towel over here so I don't get egg yolk all over the kitchen. I usually do anyway. So you add them one at a time and beat them really well after each addition. And if I don't cream my butter and sugar for 5 to 7 minutes like I'm supposed to, I just cream this extra good. So it's really nice and fluffy. And then the last part of this step, oh, that's fun, is adding your vanilla. Of course, I have the best vanilla in the world. And that is 2 teaspoons. Vanilla-y. That's why vanilla is important, Kidoo. Okay, we're gonna add these. 2 teaspoons of my lovely white vanilla from Mexico. Mix that all up. Oh, it smells so good. There's nothing like the smell of butter and sugar and vanilla. Okay. I'll be right back with step 6. Okay, so part 6, this is where we mix everything together, get it ready for the oven. So I've had it on really high to get this really creamy and fluffy and light. I recommend you turn it down to low before you start adding your dry ingredients, or you will look like a snowman. And so you add 1/3 of the flour, baker's best friend, spatula. 1/3 of the flour, half the buttermilk. Oh, this buttermilk, I didn't have any, so I made 1½ cups milk. I put a tablespoon of vinegar in. Voila, buttermilk. So then we're gonna add half the buttermilk, pseudo buttermilk, and mix that all in. Again, flour, buttermilk, end with flour. I'll do that and get back to you. Okay, my director tells me this is shoot 7. Thanks for your patience. Now, of course, this is crazy banana cake, so I better add the bananas. So we pour those in. We don't use our mixer for this. We use our handy dandy spatula. Just mix it all up. I'll tell you right now, even if you didn't add those bananas, this cake in here is delicious. So we mix those all in. Lots of banana throughout. Vanilla. And into the pans they go. 275 degrees. Now my recipe says for an hour, an hour and 10 minutes, but that's for the whole thing. Like, look how much batter is here. I'm telling you, even if you put that in a 9x13, it's gonna overflow. So we're gonna put it here, here. Remember, they rise. Oh, and ducks.
Don't forget the icing.
What?
Talk about the icing.
I'll get there. Okay. Here we go. We smooth those out so we have kind of an even cake. Okay. Very important. And the final step I usually do before I bake a cake, just to get any air out. There's a lot of science involved in baking, guys, but I'm not going to get into it today. Okay, last thing you do, give them all a little, okay? And into the oven, I'm going to set my timer for about an hour, okay? See you later. Hi, here we are on the second to last part, and apparently we can't count. So I don't know, it could be 8. Anyway, hopefully you'll figure it out. Anyway, look at how nice and brown they got. They filled the pans nicely. To check if a cake is done, if it kind of bounces back a bit. And of course the old toothpaste pick test. If it comes out clean, it's cooked. So we're gonna take these puppies out. Now this is the really crazy part. We've baked them, now they're gonna go in the freezer for 45 minutes. So I have to take mine downstairs, but put them on a towel, because in my freezer, they'll probably be near plastic bags and Ziploc containers, and you don't want them to melt. So take these out. In order that I can take them both downstairs at once, I'm going to put them on a cookie sheet with my towel. And there you go. You don't have to follow me downstairs. You won't believe what my freezer looks like. It'll probably take a while to find space. We'll be back to ice them in 45 minutes. Okay, we're back. Yay. Okay, here are the cakes out of the freezer. I'm gonna take them off of there now. And I'm pretty sure the reason we do this is when a cake comes out, it's probably its freshest and moistest. And by freezing it, I think it really helps maintain the moisture. Now there are a couple things I think I should mention. I think in part 2, if you can find that, where I was telling Megan and Kelly that they can cook if they can read. I probably should have said that you should always read a recipe right through, from beginning to end, because don't do it step by step. You gotta understand the whole process. So do that with any recipe, whether it's baking or not. And having said that, I should probably let you know that in the recipe I cooked from, it said these cakes would take 1 hour and 10 minutes. Mine took, in these pans, took 50 minutes. Doug's little pan only took 45. So be careful of that. If you do it in the great big pan you would require to use all this batter, you probably wouldn't need that much time. Okay, so now we're gonna make the icing. Icing is not my forte. My go-to icing is whipped cream. However, this one works every time. I love this Happy Hooligans lady. And so basically I'm gonna cream together 1/2 a cup of butter and a container of cream cheese, which I've had out softening while the cakes were in the freezer. And here's a little bit of science for you, Carol. So the reason we cream butter and sugar is twofold. Sugar won't melt in fat, and so we need to incorporate it really well. And then when we cream it really well, it creates air bubbles, and when the air rises, it works with the leavening agent, in this case baking soda, to expand, and therefore makes everything rise. Cool, huh? Okay, I'm gonna get to beating this, and we'll get back with what I will call the icing on the cake. Okay, so once the butter and cream cheese are all creamed up together, very slowly add in, well, the recipe calls for 3.5 cups of icing sugar. And once again, this recipe works for me. So you do that, use your spatula to scrape it all down. And then just keep whipping it for a while. It's one thing I've learned about all buttercream ice creams. So now I'm gonna turn it up. Or buttercream frostings. Is kind of the longer you beat them, sort of the fluffier they get. And the more delicious. This also makes a pile of icing, but our Happy Hooligans lady says, too bad, I like it really thick. If you don't, you could save it for something else, put on your cinnamon buns in the morning or whatever, but what the heck, let's just do it all. So there it is, gorgeous. I'm just gonna slap that on the cakes, jump in the car and deliver them to my darling daughters and their husbands.